There is something many empaths quietly experience, but rarely talk about. They find themselves caught in relationships that leave them feeling heavy, drained, or unseen. It is not because they are weak, and it is not because they do not know what they deserve. It happens because they feel so deeply that they cannot help but notice when someone is hurting, struggling, or in need of care. Their hearts are wired to understand, to soothe, to support. This is a beautiful gift, but sometimes it comes with a hidden cost. When you are someone who senses emotions so vividly, it can be difficult to know where others end and you begin. You might find yourself stepping in to help, listening when no one else will, giving even when you are exhausted, because that is simply who you are. But over time, this can create a pattern that leaves you feeling like you're carrying more than your share. This video is about exploring why that happens, what it does to you, and how to find balance so that you can keep your heart open without losing yourself. Chapter 1. The Heart of the Empath. At the very center of every empath is a deep and unshakable desire to connect. This is not just a surface-level need for company or conversation. It is a longing to understand others and to be understood in return. Empaths notice what others miss. They feel when the energy in a room shifts. They sense when someone's smile does not quite reach their eyes. They pick up on the subtle heaviness in someone's voice, even when that person says everything is fine. This ability is not something they had to work hard to develop. It feels as natural as breathing. It is simply how they move through the world, paying attention, absorbing details, feeling their way through interactions. This is what makes empaths so comforting to be around. People often feel safe with them, sometimes opening up in ways they do not with anyone else. Empaths can hold space for emotions without needing to fix them right away, and that ability creates a sense of calm for others. But what makes this quality so powerful can also make life complicated. Because empaths can feel so much, they often act before they even realize what they are doing. They sense someone's discomfort and immediately adjust their own behavior to make the other person feel more at ease. They notice tension and try to smooth it over. They see a need and rush to fill it. And here is where it becomes a quiet challenge. When this happens again and again, empaths can slowly begin to prioritize other people's feelings over their own without noticing. They may put their own needs at the very bottom of the list because it feels more urgent to soothe others. And because they have such a strong desire for harmony, they sometimes stay longer in situations that do not feel good simply because they hope things will improve. Empaths are not drawn to these moments out of weakness, but out of love for connection. They want to believe that understanding and patience will make a difference. They want to believe that if they show enough compassion, things will shift. This beautiful hope is part of what makes their hearts so open, but it can also make them vulnerable. The heart of the empath is a place of immense compassion, but compassion without boundaries can easily become overextension. It is not uncommon for empaths to feel drained at the end of the day without even realizing why. Their minds race with other people's worries. Their bodies hold on to tension that does not even belong to them. Recognizing this is the first step toward balance. The empathy that makes them such a safe harbor for others also needs to be directed inward. It is not selfish to care for your own heart first. In fact, it is the only way to keep giving without losing yourself in the process. And this is where the next chapter takes us, into understanding how this open-heartedness can quietly set a trap, a cycle that is hard to break until you can see it clearly. Chapter 2. How the trap is set. Once we understand how open the empath's heart really is, we can see how the trap is quietly formed. It rarely happens all at once. It begins with small moments, moments that feel almost unnoticeable at first. An empath senses someone's discomfort and steps in to help. They offer understanding, they listen longer, they soften their own needs so that someone else can feel heard. In the beginning, this feels good. It feels natural to lean in, to give, to offer space and comfort. Empaths are often told they are kind, caring, even rare in their ability to make people feel seen. That praise feels warm, and it confirms what they already hope is true, that they're doing something meaningful. But over time, the balance can begin to shift. If an empath is constantly responding to other people's pain, frustration, or chaos, they start to carry a weight that does not belong to them. They might begin to feel responsible for whether others are happy. They might put aside their own discomfort just to keep the peace. The trap is not set with cruelty. It is set quietly, often without anyone realizing it. It forms when an empath's need to help slowly turns into a pattern where they are always the one giving more. They might start to ignore their own signals, the tiredness, the tension, the moments when they know they need rest, because they are so focused on easing the weight someone else is carrying. This is where the dynamic becomes so difficult. Empaths often see potential in people. They notice the good. They hold on to hope that things will get better, and they stay committed to seeing things through. But sometimes this very hope keeps them in a situation far longer than is healthy. They believe if they can just understand a little more or try a little harder, things will change. The trap deepens when the empath begins to feel that stepping back would mean they have failed someone. This feeling can be powerful because empathy is tied to a deep sense of responsibility. The empath does not want to let someone down. They do not want to walk away if there is still a chance to make things better, and so the cycle repeats. The empath gives, absorbs, and sacrifices, often without realizing how much of themselves they are leaving behind. The people around them may come to expect this level of giving because it is what has always been offered. Over time, this can leave the empath feeling not only exhausted, but unseen. Their quiet needs go unheard because they have not been voiced, and even when they are voiced, they may be dismissed or minimized by those who are used to receiving their care. The trap, then, is not a single event, but a pattern of small moments where the empath loses pieces of themselves. By the time they notice, they may feel like they have little energy left to reclaim their space or reset the balance. But here's the truth. The trap only holds as long as the empath keeps giving without pause. The moment they become aware of this dynamic, they have the power to step back, to breathe, and to see things more clearly. That awareness is the first thread that begins to unravel the whole pattern. And that leads us to the next chapter, where we begin to understand the cost of staying in this place for too long and what it does to an empath's well-being over time. Chapter 3. The cost of staying. When an empath stays too long in a situation that drains them, the cost begins to ripple through every part of their life. At first, the signs are subtle. A little more tiredness at the end of the day, a little less excitement about things that used to bring joy. But over time, the exhaustion grows heavier. The empath may find themselves waking up already feeling depleted, as though they spent the entire night carrying someone else's worries. This exhaustion is not just physical. It seeps into the emotional space as well. The empath might feel less patient, less lighthearted, more easily overwhelmed. They may catch themselves feeling resentful, even though they do not want to be. This resentment is not born out of anger, but out of running on empty for too long. There is also a quiet sadness that begins to take hold. Empaths thrive when they feel connected and understood, and when their care is not balanced by care in return, they start to feel invisible. They might ask themselves if their needs are too much or if their sensitivity is somehow a flaw. This self-questioning can become a constant hum in the background of their mind, and when this pattern continues, it can also affect their ability to trust their own feelings. Empaths are naturally intuitive, but when they spend too much time absorbing others' emotions, they can lose touch with their own. They might find themselves second-guessing every decision, wondering if what they are feeling is truly theirs or just something they picked up from someone else. Even the body can start to carry the weight of staying too long. Tension gathers in the shoulders, headaches become more frequent, sleep feels less restful. The body is simply mirroring what the heart and mind already know, that something is out of balance. The cost is also measured in lost time. Every moment spent in a draining situation is a moment that could have been spent growing, creating, or resting. Empaths often look back and realize how many days, weeks, even years they spent trying to hold something together that was never theirs to fix. But perhaps the greatest cost of all is forgetting who they were before the exhaustion took over. Empaths are naturally joyful, curious, and deeply feeling people. When their energy is consumed by constant giving, those natural qualities can feel far away, as though they belong to someone they used to be. This is why recognizing the cost is so important. It is not meant to bring guilt or regret, but to awaken awareness. Because once an empath sees the price they have been paying, they can begin to choose differently. They can start to reclaim their energy, their boundaries, and their sense of self. And this awareness brings us to the next chapter, the moment of realization when the empath sees that change is not only possible, but necessary, and that taking back their energy is not selfish, but an act of self-preservation. Chapter 4. The turning point. Every empath has a moment when something clicks. It might not be loud or dramatic. It might be a quiet moment alone when they finally feel the weight of everything they have been carrying. It might be noticing how tired they are all the time, how heavy their chest feels, how long it has been since they felt truly calm. Whatever form it takes, this moment is powerful because it marks the beginning of something new. The turning point often starts with a simple question. What about me? Not in a selfish way, but in a way that finally acknowledges that their feelings, their needs, and their well-being matter too. This question can feel uncomfortable at first because empaths are so used to thinking of others before themselves, but it is the doorway to a different kind of life. In this moment, the empath may begin to look back at the choices they have made. They see the times they stayed when they wanted to leave, the times they said yes when they wanted to say no, the times they silenced their own needs to keep the peace. And for the first time, instead of blaming themselves, they simply notice. They observe how these choices made them feel and how they shaped the patterns they now find themselves in. This awareness is not meant to create regret, but clarity. It allows the empath to see where their energy has been going and what it has been costing them. And with that clarity comes a sense of power. They begin to realize that they do not have to keep doing things the same way. The turning point is often about slowing down. It is about giving themselves permission to pause before automatically stepping in to fix or soothe. It is about asking, do I really have the energy for this right now? Do I want to give this much of myself? Can I allow someone else to take responsibility for their own feelings? At first, this shift can feel uncomfortable. Empaths may worry that pulling back means they're being cold or uncaring, but over time, they come to see that creating space does not mean abandoning others. It means not abandoning themselves. The turning point is not just a single choice, but a series of small, steady decisions. It is choosing to rest even when there is more to be done. It is choosing to say no kindly and firmly when something does not feel right. It is choosing to trust that other people are capable of handling their own emotions and challenges. This is where the empath begins to notice a change in their body too. The tension starts to ease. Their mind feels clearer. They may even feel a little lighter, as though a weight they did not know they were carrying has finally been set down. And with each small act of reclaiming their energy, they start to rediscover themselves. They remember what it feels like to laugh freely, to wake up with energy, to feel genuinely present in their own life. The turning point is where they begin to shift from being someone who constantly absorbs to someone who can hold space for others while also holding space for themselves. This chapter is about hope, the quiet kind that grows when you realize you are allowed to change. You are allowed to step back, and you are allowed to put yourself back at the center of your own life. And this takes us to the next chapter, where we explore how to build the boundaries and practices that keep this shift going so that the empath does not slip back into the old patterns that once left them feeling so drained. Chapter 5. Building Healthy Boundaries. When an empath reaches the turning point, the next step is to create boundaries that allow them to stay in balance. Boundaries are not walls. They're not cold or harsh. They are gentle lines that say, this is where I end and where you begin. For empaths, this idea can feel unfamiliar at first because they are used to blending so deeply with the emotions of those around them. But boundaries are what make it possible to care for others without losing themselves in the process. The first boundary to build is internal, a moment of pause before responding. This is a small but powerful habit. Instead of rushing to absorb someone else's feelings or solve their problem, the empath takes a breath and asks themselves, how am I feeling right now? Do I have the space to hold this? Simply checking in creates a moment of awareness that did not exist before. Next comes the boundary of saying no. For many empaths, saying no feels difficult. They worry about letting people down or being seen as unkind. But no can be said with gentleness and care. It can sound like, I wish I could, but I don't have the energy for that right now. It can sound like, I hear you, but I need some time to think before I respond. Each time an empath says no, when they mean it, they say yes to their own well-being. Boundaries can also take the form of creating physical or emotional space. This might mean scheduling quiet time each day to decompress or turning off notifications to avoid constant interruptions. It might mean spending time in nature or in a quiet corner of the home where they can feel grounded. Space is not a luxury for empaths. It is a necessity that allows them to release what they have been carrying. Another key boundary is learning to let others carry their own emotions. Empaths have a natural tendency to jump in and take on other people's feelings as if they were their own. But with practice, they can learn to witness those feelings without absorbing them. This might look like listening with compassion but reminding themselves silently, this feeling belongs to them, not to me. This simple inner reminder helps prevent the emotional overload that leaves empaths so drained. Boundaries are not just about saying no to others, but about saying yes to self-care. This could be as simple as getting enough sleep, eating nourishing meals, or finding small daily rituals that feel restorative. It could also mean surrounding themselves with people who respect their sensitivity and value their well-being. The beauty of building boundaries is that over time they stop feeling restrictive and start feeling freeing. They give the empath permission to show up fully when they choose to, because they are no longer giving from an empty place. Their connections become more meaningful because they are built on mutual respect instead of quiet self-sacrifice. With these boundaries in place, empaths find that they no longer feel trapped by the same patterns as before. They can offer kindness without it draining them. They can hold space for someone else without carrying that weight home. They can feel connected while still staying rooted in their own sense of self. And with this new strength, the empath moves into a place of rediscovery, where they can reconnect with who they truly are, beyond the roles they have played and the pain they have carried. Chapter 6. Rediscovering Your True Self. When the weight of other people's pain is no longer sitting on your shoulders, something begins to shift within you. It is almost as if you can finally hear your own voice again after years of quiet. The noise that once filled your mind begins to settle, and for the first time in a long time, there is space to notice what you truly feel and what you truly need. This rediscovery is not about becoming someone new, but about returning to who you have always been underneath the exhaustion. You may find yourself remembering what used to make you curious, what activities made you lose track of time, what simple pleasures brought you joy before life became so heavy. You may even notice that your body feels lighter, that you breathe a little deeper, that you carry yourself with more ease. Rediscovering your true self can happen in small and quiet ways. It can look like sitting outside and feeling the sun on your skin. It can look like picking up an old hobby, journaling, walking in nature, or simply allowing yourself to rest without guilt. Each of these moments is a gentle step back toward your own center, a reminder that you exist outside of the emotions you once absorbed. This process is not rushed. It is not about suddenly knowing all the answers. It is about giving yourself permission to explore again, to try, to rest, to feel, to simply be. And with every choice you make in alignment with your own needs, you begin to feel more present in your own life. This is the point where an empath moves from surviving to truly living. Your connections with others become healthier because they are rooted in choice, not obligation. Your kindness flows naturally again because you are giving from a place that is no longer empty. Rediscovering yourself is about more than just healing from what drained you. It is about stepping fully into the life you were meant to live, one that feels authentic, balanced, and deeply your own. So, if you have felt trapped in patterns that drain you, let this be your turning point. Choose to pause. Choose to protect your heart. Choose to step into a life where you feel safe, grounded, and free. Because the world needs your empathy, but it needs you whole even more.